On today's episode of Let's Find a Niche, we have Effie. One of the more interesting armors we have in the game, solely due to the fact that she used to be a really good merge project for a lot of people, especially back in the launch days of Fire Emblem Heroes. However, while she didn't age necessarily the worst, everyone who built her up ended up with a lot of disappointment with her refund because of the fact that it is really mediocre. If you don't know what her weapon does, basically the TLDR of it is that it grants 6 additional attack if within 50% or more HP, and the refund effect inflicts -5 attack and defense on the foe, and neutralizes the foe's attack and defense during combat, which sounds great until you realize it only works during the first combat in either the player phase or the enemy phase, meaning as a tank it's not really going to be doing much. If you have to take on multiple foes, it's not really going to be doing anything after the first combat, minus the extra attack unless she somehow falls below 50% HP. And then in the player phase, it really doesn't do anything either because it's just one big fat attack, and that's about it. Nothing really going on there. Although regardless, her stats and everything are actually pretty good, all things considered. Her HP is pretty high at a base of 50. She has really high attack at base 40, low speed, which is fine because she's an armor and she can make use of armor skills, 33 defense, which is good, and then mediocre res stat at 23. However, when you max merge her and give her max flowers, her stats bolster quite a bit as she ends up reaching 47 base attack without any IVs. Likewise, her defense goes up to a base of 40 and her res goes up to 29, which is pretty workable, all things considered. However, I would never really recommend you use her with her preferred weapon because of how inconsistent and pretty mediocre it is. You'll get more mileage out of Effie if you use any other inheritable lance, which is really sad to say because, again, she was one of those early big projects just solely due to the fact that her stat line was really well allocated at the time. So for her first builds, we're going to go into Aether Raids. As you may notice, I'm not using her preferred weapon because of the fact that it just doesn't do anything remotely well, as it's not really a good choice of a weapon. So if you don't have access to either of these lances as shown on screen, you can always make do with it if you need to. Anyway, for her builds, her first build takes advantage of Candy Cane Plus, Noontime, Distant Counter, Slug Fighter, Attack Res Far Save, and Distant Defense. The idea here is that if you want to run her as a carry, then this is probably going to be the best potential option for her. She gets a bunch of extra stats from Candy Cane, including attack, which is great, and she can inflict guard on the foe as long as she's within 2 spaces of an ally, which should be easy to do and accomplish. Noontime is obviously going to be for healing, and because of her high attack stat, she should be able to heal a lot on the first hit. Distant Counter is fairly standard. There's a lot of ranged foes in Aether Raid, so you probably want something that can attack back. Slug Fighter is really good because you can freely buff her, which is great with a teammate such as Peony because of the fact that she grants Spectrum 3, I believe, to all stats, and has a Cardinal Spur, which is really good. And then you would think that maybe Attack Res Far Save would be good for something like a tank, someone that's there to support your allies. But you can use her as a super unit with Far Save because of the fact that it grants stats to her. So if a foe ends up attacking someone in your backline, she can Far Save it, take the hit herself, and she gains extra stats from it, which is really good. And then Distant Defense 3, obviously because you're going to be dealing with ranged foes, you would want more defense and resistance whenever possible. And then for our second build, we have Spirited Spear, Moonbow, Close Defense 4, Slug Fighter 3 again, Defense Res Near Save, and Defense Res Bond. This is just going to take advantage of the fact that she's an armor, so she can be used as a support unit. The idea here is that every time she gets hit with Spirited Spear equipped, she'll be able to retaliate back with Moonbow, which is great. Likewise, with Close Defense 4 and Defense Res Bond, she can end up getting a lot of stats in the process, although you could always give her double Close Defense. Honestly, you're probably better off using Close Defense as her seal instead of Defense Res Bond, but either are fine. One grants an additional defense and resistance buff. However, the bond will always work against any ally, so if you end up getting hit by a ranged foe, you'll always have the defense and res boost, which is fine, but you might be better off using her in the backline as a close defense near save unit. So for that, I would recommend double close defense instead. Likewise, the defense and res buff she gets from near save means she can end up tanking a lot of hits, and the Slick Glider makes it so she can't get debuffed, so she'll always have high defense and resistance whenever going into combat. And the extra stat she gets from Spirited Spear means she can end up doing a lot more damage with her attack and Moonbow. Next we have 2 arena builds. Effie unfortunately doesn't really score well these days since she's an outdated armor unit with less than 170 BST. So you don't really want to use her for something like Arena, you'd rather use her for something like Arena Assault. And that's just solely due to the fact that she doesn't score well anymore these days, and I highly doubt they're going to be coming out with any sort of dual skill for old armors. But for her first build, we have Spirited Speargun, Ignis, Sturdy Stance 3, Crafty Fighter 3, Defense Res Near Save, and Fortress Defense Res. Basically, this is just going to be taking advantage of her ability as an armor again, except instead of running double close defense, you have something that can help her deal with foes way faster with something like Ignis. It may be kind of weird to look at Sturdy Stance 3 and Crafty Fighter since they both can inflict guard on the foe. However, the idea is just more so to get extra additional attack and defense than anything else. You could always replace Crafty Fighter if you feel that it's unnecessary to run both skills, but personally I find that just having the extra threshold of 25% is better than Vengeful because she could still fall out of the range and not be able to run Ignis as consistently. And then for our second build we have Casablanca Plus, Noontime Distant Counter, Special Fighter, Attack Res Far Save, and Quick Riposte 3. Casablanca is actually a really decent weapon in Arena because of the fact that it neutralizes any form of visible buffs from ranged foes, which can be really good to have around, since there is always going to be tons of rallies. Also, because of the fact that she has really decent defense over her resistance, she doesn't really have to worry as much about taking physical hits over magical hits, but even so, even without the rallies from ranged units, they can still deal a decent amount of damage, which is why you can run something like Attack Res Far Save. So not only can she super unit herself, but also she can prevent snipes from ranged units. Special Fighter is there because you want to get Noontime going as quickly as possible, so every time she gets hit, she can retaliate with a Noontime. And then Quick Riposte 3 so she can double, because Special Fighter doesn't provide any form of guaranteed follow-up attack, so you want something that can help her double too. And then finally we have 2 builds for PvE purposes, one taking advantage of Courtly Candle and the other one taking advantage of Slaying Lands. The first build we have is Courtly Candle Plus with Bonfire, Distant Counter, Special Spiral 3, Joint Drive Resistance, and then Mirror Stance 2. Mirror Stance 2 was there so she could get additional attack and resistance, making it relatively even for the most part. Joint Drive Res is also there so she can get additional resistance, so combine that with Mirror Stance, that's an additional 7 resistance she can get. And to top it off, she has Courtly Candle, which is always just going to be a flat 50% damage reduction as long as she gets doubled, and this can help her set up Bonfire really well. The reason we want something like Special Spiral 3 with Courtly Candle is so every time she takes a hit, she's able to retaliate back with Bonfire. However, the first time around, she will need to charge it on her own, but if she can do that, then Special Spiral is always going to be able to proc Bonfire on every enemy phase hit. But if you want something a little more player phasey or something, you can always run Slaying Lance with Gale Force, Death Blow 3, Bold Fighter, Armor Stride, and Attack Defense solo. My only personal grievance with this build is that because her attack is really high, she may end up one-shotting a lot of the time, especially against mages, so she doesn't want to overload her attack in my opinion. We have Slaying Lance because obviously armors can't get Times Pulse, so you'll want something that can turn it into 4 cooldown with Bold Fighter, then Death Blow 3 and Attack Defense solo so she can get more stats to her attack, and the extra defense could help if she has to take a physical hit, Armor Stride so she can move 2 spaces consistently as long as she's alone, and then Bold Fighter so she can guarantee a double. And with that, that's about Effie. Effie's actually still a really decent unit, all things considered, even with power creep in the game. My only fear is that maybe her resistance isn't going to be enough these days because mages and anything that deals magic damage is just getting stronger by the day. So for what it's worth, Effie's still decent for a merge project. I would just say that she's probably not the best merge project you could go into just because of the fact that she doesn't really work well in Arena. And if you're going to build somebody for like a lot of PvE purposes, you probably want somebody that can at least score in Arena. But even so, Effie's still pretty decent, and if you do want to build her, these are some suggestions for you. So let me know what you think down below. I'm always curious on what you have to say. Do you think that any of these builds are good? Do you disagree with some of it? Do you have other ideas of your own? I know I didn't mention Berkut's Lance with Vengeful Fighter because, I mean, it's not outdated by any means, but I just didn't feel like I needed to put that in because it's such a common build. But you'll let me know what you think. Anyway, with that, that'll be a wrap. Thank you guys for watching. It means a lot. Make sure to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.